No, 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 no. I cannot believe we're talking about this, but you know what? It was blasted onto Quebec TV on JIC, so I kind of think that gives us the verification saying, okay, this is an idea that is circulating in the media to the extent that it is actually discussed in a prime media spotlight, and therefore it gives us the right to go out there and respond to it. Let's go over onto TVA Sports, where a recent piece from yesterday highlights a specific segment on the JIC show, talking about how the Dallas Stars could be interested in Jeff Petry. This article is French, so I translated it to English via the Google machine. The link will be in the description as always. And when it comes to what exactly the message and the content of this article proposes, yeah, it kind of gets ridiculous when you really sit down there and think about it. Like the rest of the team, Jeff Petry is having a miserable season, the article says. Many Habs supporters are clamoring for his departure, but he still has to find a buyer elsewhere. And if the Dallas Stars were interested... Line break. Okay, so that's kind of what it says right here. It doesn't even say the Stars are interested or that they want this guy, that they're in the running or whatever. They just say if the Stars were interested. Yvonne Pedneau has identified a player in Dallas who could come to Montreal in return for Petry. John Klingberg. Klingberg wants to go. He is no longer in the good graces of management. Why not pass Petry to the Stars in return for Klingberg? He said on his column on the JIC show. Now, before we even go over the rest of this piece, I'm just gonna go out there and say it's sorry, bro. You're not getting John Klingberg for Jeff Petry. These two are in completely different worlds, and to even try to evaluate these players as if they were on the same field, I think it's just so out of the ordinary that... Okay, let's just go over it right now. Talk about the players. Jeff Petry, 34 years old, 6'3", 207, a right-handed guy. Signed till 2025 at $6.25 million a season. That's 3 years from now. Petry will be 37 when this contract expires. And this season, the guy's at 3 points in 29 games. He scored his first goal on the year the other night, and it's coming off of a campaign in Montreal that admittedly has been really good. 46 points in 82 games in 2018-19, 40 points in 71 games in 2019-20, 42 points in 55 games in 2020-2021. All seasons where he had over 10 goals. All seasons where his shooting percentage was at like 12% or whatever it was. All seasons where Petry was the best offensive defenseman on this team, despite the fact that Weber was here too. Petry, though, has fallen off, and the 3 points in 29 games, sure, you could say, oh, it's indicative of the team, everybody's playing poorly in Montreal just because one player is down there and not really doing well doesn't mean that he is that bad, right? Well, 3 points is very, very bad, and in fact, assume you do the math over 82. 3 divided by 29 multiplied out by 82, Petry over the span of a year is on pace for 8 points, which would be a career low in points, going back as far to 2010-2011 when he had 5 points in 35 games for the Oilers. This is Petry's worst year in his entire career, and this is a player that is making so much gosh darn money that to even think that there is that much of a value player here kind of boggles my mind. He also has a modified no-trade clause and a no-move clause too, so whether or not Petry gets traded anywhere, it's all up to him. And so the entire argument that this article has at the beginning, oh, you have to go out there and find a suitor for Petry. Well, you have to go out there and find a team that Petry would say yes to in the first place. And I get it, it's easy to go out there and say, of course he'd say yes. He'd say yes to anywhere because, you know, Montreal sucks right now. And I guess that's fair. Maybe that's easy for you and me to sit here and say, but I think it was Rick Dollywall on an earlier episode of Donnie and Dolly who talked about how NHL players don't get no-move clauses and no-trade clauses just to waive them. They get them because they want to stay. And even if that involves a few years where the team is really bad or when they're aging out, these players, they have families and they want to stick around where they are for a while, which is why they fight so hard to get those no moves and those no trades. For Petry, it's easy to say, okay, why would he want to stay in Montreal? If Montreal comes knocking at his door and they say, hey, we've got a trade proposal to Tampa Bay, we've got a trade proposal to Pittsburgh or to another team that's in the playoffs, why would he say no to that? Because when you're 34 years old, there are other parts of your life that take precedence over whether or not you want to go out there and win. Family is a thing, housing is a thing, just regular daily routine is a thing, and I guess for some people it would be easy to say, okay, but I still want to win another cup. We made the finals last year, we lost, I want to go out there and try to win it again, maybe actually get it this time. It's just, to me, I can totally understand why Jeff Petry is in a position where he has the no move, he's got the no trade. If he decides to exercise those and say, no, I'm not getting traded, I would totally understand why he would want to stick around. Now for John Klingberg, this is the difficult one because he's 29 years old, also a right-handed guy, 6'1", 176, $4.25 million a year until the end of this season. He needs a new contract and he doesn't want to be on the Dallas Stars anymore, or at least there have been very public discussions going on about how there pretty much has been a trade request already. He didn't want to say it like that verbatim, but pretty much they're exploring trade options for Klingberg. Klingberg at his best was one of the best gosh darn defensemen in the entire NHL. 67 points in 82 games played in 2017-2018 after being a consistent 50-point guy previously. Now, this year he's at 17 points in 29 games. Do the math on that. 17 divided by 29 multiplied out by 82. On pace for 48 points again. Still in that ballpark, John Klingberg is. And in the previous few seasons, he has really started to come alive as just that consistent offensive presence, always getting involved. He can score some goals once in a while, but he's a very good playmaker. And the thing is, he's so much younger than Petry, and he's so much more accessible than Petry. That's a terrible word to use, but there's a reason I use that word. Petry and the biggest problems that have plagued his game as of late involve shot selection, involve tendencies, involve defensive coverage. For Klingberg, it's just plug and play. You say, okay, we just got this brand new guy, John Klingberg. Here you go. You're going to go in the power play. Just do something with it. Make a play and just try to get some offense out there. And he'll adjust. If it's a Montreal system that is a lot different from Dallas, he'll be flexible enough to adjust his game to make things work properly. Jeff Petry will take the same shot 3 times over and over again, waiting for it to get blocked, and then not pass it to the other guys on his team on the power play. There are just so many different layers to how these guys perceive the game at this point in their careers that, not to mention the age, not to mention the production, there is just such a different profile here that they're not at the same level of value, man. And even if you consider, okay, if Petry bounces back next year, he goes from 3 points and whatever, an 8-point pace over 82 games, back to 40, 50-point pace. Do you really want to go out there and try to convince me that that's possible? Maybe on a different team it's possible, but right now, you cannot go out there and say that the value that a Petry has is akin to the Petry that was suiting up and getting 40, 50 points last year and the year before that. You have to evaluate this year too, and 3 points in 20-something games is not it, folks. It's not. Even if Petry rebounds just a little bit, he gets up to a 10-point defenseman. Next year, that's still a $6-point-something million guy signed till he's 37 years old. Klingberg being a free agent next season and not having a contract next season is not enough, in my opinion, to diminish his value to the point that it is at the same level of a Jeff Petry, man. And this article bringing it up just kind of got me laughing when I saw it. Here we go. Let's read the rest of it right here. Klingberg currently in the final year of a 7-year contract that has him earning $4.25 million a year. He could become a UFA at the end of this current season. The 29-year-old recently asked to be traded when negotiations for a new deal stalled. NHL Network reported it last week. Klingberg shows great qualities, particularly in offense. In 8 seasons in the NHL, he has totaled 344 points in 506 games. Yada, yada, yada. Petry has been struggling both offensively and defensively so far this season. Thursday, he finally scored his first goal in his 29th game and posted only 3 small points on the clock. The problem is that he's 35 years old and is under contract. Yada, yada, yada. It's the same stuff that we just kind of discussed over here in the video. But Petry for Klingberg. Don't make me laugh. Okay, no, that's kind of unfair, because you already made me laugh. Talk to me in the comments, what do you think about this idea? I hope you enjoyed this video. Rosén 99. And bye.